Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. I gotta tell you, I am so thrilled to have you here because the velocity of today's news cycle is just absolutely massive. We are looking at a truly historic day, August 18th, 2026. From escalating global tensions that are quite literally reshaping international shipping lanes, to multi-billion-dollar leaps in AI that are actively rewriting the rules of the job market, there is just an incredible amount of ground to cover. But don't worry, my goal is to break all of this down so you can clearly understand exactly what's happening and, more importantly, why it actually matters to you. To make sense of the over 40 major updates hitting the wire today, we're using our News Radar approach to break everything down into 6 easy-to-digest themes: global conflicts, U.S. politics, AI and tech, markets and the economy, health and weather, and finally, what to watch tomorrow.
Okay, let's dive into this first section: global conflicts and flashpoints.
Right now, we're seeing 3 incredibly significant maritime and diplomatic escalations unfolding simultaneously. First, Iran is threatening a new offensive as its Memorandum of Understanding with the U.S. officially expires. At the exact same time, they've seized a UAE-owned tanker right in the Strait of Hormuz. And if we look further south, Houthi forces just struck a Saudi-linked vessel in the Red Sea. What we're looking at here is a highly coordinated pressure campaign on some of the most critical global shipping lanes in the world.
And you know, this wave of global instability, it's stretching from land straight out into open waters. Over in the Middle East, the UN is actually warning of a surge in violence as Israel intensifies strikes in southern Lebanon. Internally, Israeli far-right minister Itamar Ben-Gvir is facing widespread criticism for demanding specific kill quotas in Gaza. Right in the thick of this, Jared Kushner just met with Prime Minister Netanyahu to advance a U.S.-supported 15-point Gaza plan. Meanwhile, out at sea, we've got some massive logistical and environmental crises brewing. The Navy just disclosed that the USS Benfold was left completely adrift, totally without power, for 4 days in the South China Sea after a severe engineering failure. Oh, and off the coast of Oman, a grounded Russian tanker is spilling oil as we speak, prompting an immediate scramble for cleanup efforts.
Moving from global waters back home, let's hit Section 2, U.S. politics and justice.
We have a seriously rapid-fire legal docket today. First up, opening statements just began in Las Vegas in the murder trial of Dwayne "Keffe" Davis, who was accused in the 1996 killing of Tupac Shakur. I mean, this is a historic moment in a decades-old cold case. Up in New York, a judge officially postponed the Luigi Magnoni murder trial to a later date. Over in Washington, the Supreme Court rejected Donald Trump's bid to overturn the sexual abuse verdict in the E. Jean Carroll case. And down in Texas, a federal court ruling just significantly eased restrictions on purchasing and owning firearm suppressors. So yeah, it's a highly charged week for both federal and state dockets. On the domestic policy front, Florida voters are actually heading to the polls today for statewide primary elections. Meanwhile, U.S. Customs and Border Protection has temporarily paused border wall construction down at Texas's Big Bend National Park, pending a further review. But honestly, perhaps the most universally impactful update comes from New York Fed data. The unemployment rate among recent college graduates is running noticeably higher than the broader labor market. And the fascinating and kind of concerning factor here, artificial intelligence is now being explicitly cited as a driving cause. Speaking of shifting landscapes, let's jump into Section 3, the AI and tech landscape.
The tech world is kind of caught in this massive tug-of-war right now over younger users. It's a brilliant visual juxtaposition, really. On one end of the spectrum, you've got OpenAI proactively rolling out ChatGPT for teens, which comes loaded with strict parental controls and a dedicated study mode. But on the exact opposite end, Meta is sitting in federal court today, facing off against 29 states in a landmark trial over alleged harms to young users on its platforms. It's just a fascinating look at an industry that's simultaneously trying to regulate its future while frantically defending its past.
Now, if you really want to grasp the sheer financial velocity of this AI boom, just look at this figure: $21 billion. That is the staggering new valuation for Etched, which is an AI inference chip startup. But what's really making waves here isn't just the cash, it's their incredibly aggressive talent strategy. They are actively and successfully recruiting top-tier engineers right away from NVIDIA to build out their custom hardware.
But, you know, with all this rapid innovation comes some massive security and infrastructure headaches. Get this, a threat actor is claiming to have stolen 3.6 million employee records from multiple Azure enterprise environments using compromised credentials. And over in the development space, Wiz researchers found that a bug in GitHub's Copilot autofix actually introduced a shell injection flaw into code. It really highlights the deep risks of automated coding. On the legal side of things, developers are rushing to establish the rules of the road. ByteDance and the Motion Picture Association just agreed on a landmark framework governing AI copyright for generative tools. Oh, and in a fun peek at future hardware, Mac OS code just revealed references to unreleased Apple AirPods equipped with built-in cameras to provide ambient visual context. I mean, the tech world is literally moving at breakneck speed today.
So what does this all mean for us? How are these Middle East geopolitical flashpoints and these massive multi-billion-dollar tech disruptions actually impacting the broader global economy? Well, that brings us right into Section 4, Markets, Business, and the Economy. Because let's face it, the global news cycle has an immediate ripple effect on our wallets.
You can actually connect those earlier Middle East tensions straight to this number, $4.06. That's the national average for a gallon of gas today, marking a record for mid-August. Because of those geopolitical pressures, crude oil futures have climbed right past $90 a barrel. And that rise in energy costs, coupled with higher treasury yields, is actively pressuring sentiment today. It's causing both the S&P 500 and the Dow to slip.
Now, what's really interesting about these corporate earnings is the totally mixed economic signals we're getting today. Home Depot, they beat expectations with $47.3 billion in revenue, which shows us some serious consumer resilience in home improvement. But then you look at Baidu, and they completely missed their Q2 revenue estimates because a sharp decline in advertising totally outweighed their AI cloud growth. Meanwhile, Warner Bros. Discovery is a rare bright spot in media today, reporting a very solid 10% jump in streaming revenue.
Let's quickly round up the billions moving through the entertainment and sports sectors today. Paramount is currently hunting down a massive $1.88 billion bond from state attorneys general to cover costs, especially as its highly anticipated merger faces even more regulatory delays. Internationally, the BBC is taking its content strategy global, pushing its international franchises hard at MIPCOM Cannes. And in sports business, the numbers are absolutely huge. Mark Walter is reportedly in talks to sell his stake in Chelsea FC amid an ongoing probe. Plus, that incredibly lucrative Los Angeles Lakers sale process still ongoing, with some major ownership questions left totally unresolved.
All right, let's shift gears to personal well-being in our environment with Section 5, Health and Extreme Weather. We're tracking some pretty critical health updates today, spanning from urgent warnings to some truly groundbreaking discoveries. First, the urgent stuff. Poison center reports tied to kratom use have literally surged from just 19 cases in 2010 to over 1,200 recently. That's a huge spike. Concurrently, the CDC just issued an alert warning of a surge in mosquito-borne arbovirus infections across multiple regions in the U.S. But contrasting those warnings, we've got some absolutely fascinating new research. A Stanford study just discovered large numbers of immune cells entering the aging brain, which totally challenges long-held assumptions about how our brains age. On top of that, new behavioral research shows that fear of failure patterns, the ones deeply rooted in childhood criticism, are actually way more flexible and changeable in young adults than psychology previously believed. On the weather front, we're looking at a very clear picture of climate extremes across the map. The National Weather Service is predicting a prolonged extreme heat event across the southern U.S. Right now, heat indices of 110 to 113 degrees are absolutely punishing the Georgia and South Carolina coasts. We're seeing similar sweltering conditions with heat advisories continuing in Florida, where highs are near 98, and Southern California valleys are hitting 105 degrees. But in stark contrast to that massive heat dome, the northern plains are facing isolated storms with damaging winds, while the Northeast remains surprisingly quiet, seeing just some seasonal conditions and scattered showers. Okay, let's land the plane here and prep for what's next with Section 6, What to Watch Tomorrow. Over the next 48 hours, we've got some major events hitting the wire. Wednesday morning kicks off with the highly anticipated Unitree Robotics IPO on the Star Market, which, by the way, is already 8,000 times oversubscribed. Wednesday afternoon, all eyes turn to the Federal Reserve when the FOMC minutes are released, alongside Target's earnings report. Wednesday evening, grab your popcorn because the Little League World Series officially opens in Pennsylvania. And looking ahead to Thursday, we have a massive retail indicator dropping when Walmart reports their earnings, right before NFL preseason Week 2 kicks off with Vegas at Houston. And hey, if you're looking for live sports action tonight, we have plenty to choose from. Quick recap first. Scottie Scheffler just locked the FedEx Cup #1 seed after securing his 21st PGA Tour victory. Tonight, MLB action features the Diamondbacks visiting the Red Sox and the Braves facing the Twins. Over in the WNBA, we have the Fever taking on the Dream and the Fire versus the Mercury. And in a totally fascinating crossover moment for the league's growing profile, 2 former NBA players have officially declared for the upcoming WNBA draft. Wow, okay, we have covered a tremendous amount of ground today. Think about it. AI is already noticeably reshaping the job market for recent grads. Global tensions are actively driving up the price of oil right at your local pump, and major corporate markets are shifting in real time. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative question. What headline from today's radar will impact your tomorrow the most? Take a second and think about how these global threads actually weave into your daily life. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.